Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to take a look at a really spicy deck that I've really wanted to play but never really found the right list, at least until now. And today we're going to be taking a look at Team Rocket's Porygon with the Team Rocket's Mimikyu. This is an archetype that has obviously been around for a little while now, and well, I couldn't really settle on a list because I was like, well, I need to play a lot of supporters, which I already know of, but I can't really get the list to be how I want it to be. But thankfully the list has gotten to where it is now. And well, it's a fun deck, so I wanted to end this week off with a fun deck. Obviously we did the what was it? It was the Acerola Bramblegast, and I didn't really enjoy that deck, and well, I don't want to leave this week on a bad end, so I thought, well, let's play Team Rocket's Porygon. So as per usual, in the description below, there's going to be usual links to the deck list, which is also available to copy in the description below. There's the games that we'll play and the outro and what I think of the deck. So of course, we are going to be focusing on the Team Rocket's Porygon-Z with its Reconstitute ability. You must discard 2 cards from your hand in order to use this ability. Once during your turn, you may draw a card. Now I know that sounds terrible, and believe you me, it is. But when you look at the R-Command attack, which the Porygon, I think it's the middle evolution, has it does 20 damage for each supporter card that has Team Rocket in its name in your discard pile. Now obviously, with us being a single prize archetype, we do have a few things that goes for us. Obviously, against things like Dragapult, we're going to get eaten alive because most of our Pokemon is 60 HP, at least the basics are anyway. But obviously against decks that struggle against single prize archetypes, we could hit some really high numbers. Obviously we have the Team Rocket's Mimikyu here with its Gemstone Mimicry attack, which is really useful against certain Terra archetypes. Obviously it does mean we can smack a Pult in the face and, well, use its own attack, but typically Mimikyu is actually going to be used to copy Wellspring of all things, which means we can actually shuffle the Team Rocket's energy back in, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But the Team Rocket's Mimikyu is a really good attacker, and well, we needed something to at least do well against Terras, so why not play 2 copies? And obviously we do have the Porygon 2 as our middle stage, which can use R-Command, but obviously it takes 3 energy, so we are running Ignition Energy in this list. And well, as you'll see in the deck list, we are playing a lot of supporters, but we kind of have to. Otherwise, let's go to the deck list, and let's have a quick look. And welcome to the deck list. So we've not really got a lot to talk about here. As you can tell, there is a lot of supporters here. Obviously we've got Hand Disruption, we've got Item Search, we've got Basic Pokemon Search, we've got Ariana for Draw, we've got Transceiver to help us find ones that we specifically need. We're playing also for Team Rocket's Factory to try and maximise the draw that we get from playing a supporter for turn. We have a lot going for us. Obviously, the only thing I'm not maxing out is Rare Candy, because obviously we can attack with the middle stage using Ignition Energy. But you could definitely put in a second or even a third Candy if you wanted to. But obviously you don't really want to be eating down the supporters, because obviously the 20 times applies to your supporters. So you could do potentially so it's 20 supporters. So you could do 400 damage in theory if you get all supporters in the discard pile. The chances of that are quite low, but the fact that you can still do that on a single prizer is pretty good. So obviously we're playing 4 Porygon, 4 Porygon 2, and 4 Porygon-Z. We're also playing 2 Mimikyu, as I said in the intro part. Then of course we're playing 4 Proton, 4 Petrel, 4 Giovanni, 4 Archer, 4 Ariana, 4 Transceiver, 3 Ultra Balls to help us discard some of these supporters, 2 Night Stretchers, 1 Buddy Poffin, 1 Sacred Ash, this is a really useful card in this list, 1 Brilliant Blender so we can get rid of ones that we don't specifically need. For example, we can just bin the Petrels if we're not going to need them. 1 Rare Candy just to help get us into Porygon-Z a little bit easier. 1 Brave Bangle, this just gives us a plus 30, so I thought why not. 4 Team Rocket's Factory, 4 Team Rocket's Energy, and 4 Ignition Energy. Now of course this does mean that we could potentially only attack 8 times. But realistically, that is not a bad thing. Obviously, Mimikyu does hit for Psychic Weakness, which is good against some archetypes, but the problem is obviously they have to be Terra Pokemon to do that. And I think there's only 1 Terra Pokemon that's actually weak to Psychic, and I think it's Hooper EX. But obviously we can copy things like Wellspring, we can obviously, copy Terrapagos's Crown Opal attack. or, you know, Reunify Beatdown, it doesn't really matter. You know, we have a lot of options, but obviously the Mimikyu's made it in here for a free pivot, but obviously we can attack with it, because obviously we could use Giovanni, bring up a Mimikyu, and then bring up our opponent's Pokemon, and then go straight back into the Porygon-Z or Porygon-2. So we have a lot of versatility in that regard. The only thing that this list is lacking, at least in my opinion, is the, shall we say, the turbo aspect, because obviously, you know, we can obviously go, you know, we can obviously start with Brilliant Blender in hand, but there's no way to search it other than Petrel. And Petrel is obviously our support for turn. But, you know, like, there's a lot of things that this list could definitely do with, but it's just making the space. Like, I would want a second Brave Bangle. This just gives us an immediate 30 out of the gate, which I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 1.5 supporters, which that can make the difference in terms of damage numbers, especially early on. If I was to be brutally honest, you could probably cut down the Team Rocket's factory for that, go down to 3, which would be fine. I mean, realistically, you're not being warded by anything. Obviously, you know, like, the only thing that you're being warded by is Cornerstone. You have the Porygon-2 and the Mimikyu for dealing with Cornerstone, and will cross the lane surviving against this archetype, so that's at least something. But anyway, let's get into a match and see how we do. And welcome to the first game. We're against someone named Cavalry. Well, let's hope they're not bringing the horses. Pardon the joke, of course. But, yeah, this is a really interesting little archetype. Obviously, we get bodied by things like Dragapult and Grimmsnarl. But, you know, that's just something you have to take, unfortunately. And also, Frostlass Monkey Dory completely destroys this deck. But, you know, it's something to think about. Like, it's not, obviously, the best archetype in the world. But, you know, like, we're only playing 6 basic Pokemon is another thing. Which, surprisingly, we don't mulligan. So that's pretty good. So we start with the Mimikyu. I will take that. Mimikyu's really good in some matchups, but obviously against certain cards, gonna be a little bit tough, Chief. Ooh, a Miraidon deck. You don't see that very often. We do top deck a Porygon, so we'll go for a Proton. Grab 2 Porygons and a Mimikyu. We have prized 2 Porygon. Well, we've prized 1 Porygon, which could be an issue. I'm not gonna bench this Mimikyu. I don't really need to. I'll just pass. Obviously, we don't have Porygon 2s in hand. We have Porygon Zs, so they are stage 2s. But hopefully we can go Transceiver. We can actually bench the Mimikyu just to have it. And then we can go Mimikyu, Transceiver, and hopefully hit an Ariana, because that would be really nice. There's a tandem unit. Hopefully we're not against, like, Turbo Hands, because that would be pretty tough, especially with the fact that we've only played 1 supporter, so we're doing a grand total of 20 damage, but still. That's the only thing that holds this archetype back, is obviously it does take a while to set up. They're grabbing Pika, which is interesting. Pika we could obviously copy with Mimikyu, but well, there's no real point to it, I'll be honest. Because it would just survive the hit with Resolute Heart. The only way in which that would benefit us is if they played like a bench attacking Terra, but I severely doubt it. And they just attach and pass. That is fine. There's an Ignition Energy. So I'm going to Transceiver and grab an Ariana, which we have prized 1 of. We have prized a Petrel as well. And we've also prized a Giovanni, but I can deal with that. I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to attach an Ignition Energy. In fact, no, there's no real point, because, you know, there's no real point. I'm just going to Ariana for 3. And that's kind of bad. See, we have the Porygon 2s in there, but we're not really doing anything with them. This could get ugly. I suspect we're against a Joltik box deck. And yeah, we are. I thought so. This could get ugly, because obviously we need 12 supporters in the discard pile to take out an Iron Hands. And they've got a Crispin, so they can even attack with a Miraidon now if they want to, but I don't think they are. And no, they're going to use Joltik. Fair enough. They're going to tandem unit to Thin as well. There's another Hands, and they're going to split 2 and 2, because if not, I could Giovanni one of the Iron Hands. Maybe buy myself some time, but at this point, I need to get Porygon 2s established as soon as possible. So they're grabbing a medal. They're not going to need Pika in this matchup, but they can still, you know, use it if they want, because I can't one-shot it, but they're probably going to go 2 on the hands with the grass energy and 2 on the ones without any energy, because then it can just, you know, go immediately for attack. Okay, so maybe Okay, there's a Team Rocket's Energy. See, this is the thing. We've not really gotten anything established. I could Giovanni this to buy myself some time, but I think I Petrel here. As bad as it may seem, I think I Petrel. I then Brilliant Blender, I think. But I also need to Ultra Ball, so I think I'll Ultra Ball. So I'll Ultra Ball away a Giovanni and a Petrel. In fact, no, I'll keep the Petrel. I'll get rid of a Team Rocket's Energy, because then I can grab a Porygon-Z. I'll evolve to Porygon-Z and I'll pass. So we need 12 supporters in the discard pile. We currently have 4. We can get there, but it's going to be tricky. It's going to be very tricky. Let's just hope they don't have boss for our Porygon-Z, because that could get things ugly. And they don't have a charm, which is good, but they do have the boss, rather annoyedly. It's interesting they're like gusting the Porygon-Z, because I could still find Rare Candy, but... Well, this is an unfavourable matchup anyway because of the Iron Hands. The Iron Hands makes our job so much harder. Alright, well let's see what we can get. There's a Transceiver, so that's a good start. So I will grab an Ariana. There's no point me Petreling them because they don't really do much else. I'm going to risk it and attach and an Ariana for 4. We do get there, but we still need quite a bit yet. So, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need 7 more in the discard pile. That's a big ask. So that's Team Rocket's Factory for 2. We do get that, at the very least. So we can reconstitute. And we'll go double... In fact, I'll go 1 Petrel, 1 Proton. So we can draw a card. I'm doing 140. We might as well hit it, because they need Gust to take another 2 prizes. They'd have to arm press this one unless they play the Future Booster. Which most lists aren't, but knowing my luck, he's got boss in hand. So he's attached for turn. Has he got the boss? Because if not, that's good for us. But obviously we need to be very careful because these hands are going to be a problem. Kind of hoping he doesn't have Gust. And he doesn't. Good. That's very good. But obviously we are losing our Porygons at a rapid rate, which we need to get one off the prizes now. Alright. Let's evolve to a Porygon-Z. We will then reconstitute. Get rid of a Giovanni and a Petrel. Draw 1. Okay, that's pretty good. I can thin the Transceiver. And then Ariana for 6. There's Sacred Ash. That's good. But I'm going to Night Stretcher first and grab a Porygon back. We also get the Team Rocket's Energy, so we're not losing an Ignition Energy. I'll then Sacred Ash. Shuffle back those boys. Team Rocket's Factory for 2. Okay, not the best, but we can now Arcommand and take out this Iron Hands. So that gets us 2 prizes. Obviously, if they have Gust, this is going to get ugly. There's Porygon-Z and Porygon-Z. That's good, because we are going to be losing this Porygon-Z here. They can Nest Ball for Fez now, but I had no choice but to take out that Iron Hands. Knowing Joltik Box players, they always find it off the Fez, so let's see if they've got the Gust. Or if they have, obviously, the Future Booster. If they have the Future Booster, that's pretty much game here. But if they don't, we do take out their only Iron Hands. And judging by their reaction... Okay, no, they have it. Of course they do. And they're prioritizing the Porygon, which is a problem. But they don't have a turn attachment onto any of their other attackers. Which is good, because he had to turn attach to this Iron Hands in order to amp. But he does get access to Blood Moon. And if he has Blood Moon, that is going to be game. But... we've held our own against this. Obviously, the hands is just the problem, but, well, that's Iron Hands for you, unfortunately. It's a very balanced Pokemon card. I'm kidding. It's a relatively balanced card. I'm just going to Archer. Hand Disrupt them. Okay, well, that's not very good for us. I could Team Rocket's Factory for 2. There's an Ultra Ball, so we can Ultra Ball away... Factory and Bangle, because we don't need Bangle at this point. I'm going to grab a Porygon. I can reconstitute because I need to. Get rid of Archer and Porygon-Z. Draw a card. Excellent. And yeah, we'll Arcommand for 240. Take out the Iron Hands. So now, if they don't find Blood Moon plus an energy, we win. They can give us the Joltik, but obviously we have Giovanni in hand. And these decks don't play hand disruption. So he needs Blood Moon, Latias, and then he also needs an energy. So that's what he needs to win here. He needs Blood Moon, energy, and a retreat option, whether it be Latias or Prime. There's Arven, so he's probably got it, maybe? I don't know. He could also play an Air Balloon, which some of these lists do. That would be his retreat out. But if he has Prime plus Boss, or a way to get an attacker going... And yep, he's got the bear, so he's got the energy. Yep, that's game. He's got the Prime. GG's. Really unfortunate, but well, that's what happens when you face an Iron Hands deck. He had the Blood Moon for game. Unfortunate, but I will take that loss, because that was really close, even with our bad start. Let's go to a game 2. And welcome back to game 2. That was an unfortunate loss against Joltik Box there, but that was a really fun little game. Like, obviously, we got a really bad start, and obviously we had a couple of Porygons prize, which really put a pressure on our resources. But we was able to put up a decent fight, you know. We was able to take 4 prizes against an archetype that's running Iron Hands, you know. That's pretty impressive. Like, it didn't help that we prized so many Porygon. But, you know, when you only play 6 basics, it's quite a low chance of actually doing that. But still, we're going to go first, because obviously we want to set up our board as best we can. I do think you need a couple of candy in this list, because it would just open up the options a little bit more, I think. And well, this is a horrible starting hand, that's for sure, but they do get a mulligan. What are we facing? Venusaur, oh boy. Okay, looks like we're targeting down Tealmass this game. Not the worst thing in the world to do. You know, we can take 2 prizes on them, we might as well. So we can at least, you know, like, do something in that regard. But we do get a mulligan, which should hopefully help us. They're benching a lot of Pokemon as well. You don't really want to be doing that. But still. So we'll take the mulligan. The Petrel can't be used because we're going first. Okay. And neither can that. We're just going to put down the factory and pass, because that's all we can do. This hand is awful. Is there a world in which they donk us? I mean, they could. If they play Air Balloon and they manage to get 3 energy on the Tealmass in one go, they could, but otherwise, not particularly. They can bind down, which is an issue, but we don't need to worry about that too much. Okay, that's fine. We can deal with that. Okay, so I think I Petrel here, because then I can get a Buddy Poffin. So we'll Petrel for Buddy. We've not prized any Porygons, but we have prized a Porygon 2 and a Porygon-Z. Okay, that's fine then. So we'll go for a Buddy Poffin, we'll grab 2 Porygons. We'll Team Rocket's Factory for 2. Okay, we do get the extra Mimikyu, which is just nice. And we'll pass. I think as well, like, to dedicate this archetype around, you know, Team Rocket's Porygon, I think this deck needs to be playing some sort of, you know... I think it needs a backup attacker, because obviously, like, a stage 1 and a stage 2 attacker is nice. Like, yeah, Mimikyu's a backup attacker, but Mimikyu's a situational attacker, as I like to call it. So, you don't really have the luxury of a consistent backup attacker. And well, there's Tealmass. That's a good thing. Obviously, they can keep binding us down, which is not an issue. I don't really care if they're doing that, because we have Giovanni. But it gives us time to set up our board, which is always nice. There's Protons. How many cards are we going down? 3, 5, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of cards. So, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think we just Proton here. Just grab 2 more Porygon. Because then we get Factory Draw, which is nice. So we'll do that. Draw 2. Okay, that's fine. We could use this later on the Teal Mask. So, you know, we have options here. I'm not bothered about this bind down. The bind down is not a concern for me. If anything, I could care less about that. And, well, there's an Iono. That's fine. They don't like the fact I've got so many cards in hand, clearly. That's also fine. We get a Porygon-Z, so we can actually attack. And we can Transceiver for an energy. Or we can Transceiver for a supporter. So we've only got 2 in there, so we're only doing 40 damage right now. But I can live with that. We can Transceiver for Petrel, actually, and play the Brilliant Blender. We might as well do that and kill some time, you know. We're not in a bad position here. We can play a Petrel. Which, I actually didn't like Team Rocket's Proton. Well, not Proton, Petrel at first. But then I remembered that Skylar was previously in the format, and obviously that's in GLC, and Skylar's really good, so, you know. And there's another bind down, that's fine. They can keep stalling us all they like, there's not really a lot they can do about it. So I'm going to Transceiver, I'm going to grab a Petrel. I'm then just going to evolve 2 of my Porygons. Team Rocket's Petrel, because I'm pretty certain it was in there, and it is. So we will Blender. Get rid of 2 Archers, double Pet. In fact, no. I'll keep the Petrels around. I don't need these Protons anymore. So that is a plus 100 to our damage output already. So then we'll Team Rocket's Factory for 2. That's not bad. So now we're up to 8 supporters, so 160. Again, I don't mind waiting. He's clearly stalling me out. I can just go for a Giovanni next turn, which is probably what I'm going to do. Go for a Giovanni off the Transceiver, Ignition it, and then take out that Teal Mask. You know, he needs energy in play, and he's not going to do it with the Teal Masks being dead, you know. He can stall me all he likes, I could care less, as I've already said, you know. But if he wants to keep using Bind Down, it doesn't really get him anywhere. I mean, I say that, it could get him a prize card later with the Genesect if he chooses to play it, but not many lists are. Back in a moment. Well, I've just come back and my opponent decided to concede for some reason. Not really sure why. I mean, you know, we was scaling up in damage, but we wasn't really doing much. But hey, I'll take the win. Let's go to game 3. And welcome back to game 3. I'm not really sure why my opponent conceded there, but like I said, I literally just walked in, sat down, put my headset back on, and then they conceded. Not really sure why, you know? I wasn't even gone that long. Like, I checked the footage, and, well, sure enough, they decided to concede after binding me down for, like, 500 turns. I don't know. Alright, that's a mulligan, but that's fine. We would have been able to take out a Teal Mask, so that's probably why they conceded, because they were really slow. They didn't find their stadium. I don't know, but maybe their Ivysaurs were prized. That's probably why. But still, I'll take it. You know, we'll always take it. We just didn't do a lot that game, but it's fine. We'll take it. But hopefully we don't have a bad start, because this hand would have been pretty good going first if that Porygon was a actual Porygon, not a Porygon 2. But let's see what we get. But I think my opponent is really taking the mick because they're not moving very fast. But hopefully that is just something that, you know, is down to them, but still. Just the one, that's fine, and we start a Porygon, that's fine. Obviously we are going first, so this is not a great hand going first, but we can Ultra Ball, get rid of the Team Rocket's Giovanni. Because we'll play 4, we don't need to worry about throwing one away. And ideally I want at least 2 Porygon down. Also, this attack here, hacking, is not very good. It's okay for like our deck, but you know, we're going first. And that is something I don't want to see. But hopefully it doesn't like go too bad for us. We'll grab another Porygon. Bench it, pass. I did not want to see a Duskull, that's for sure. Because we don't play Psyduck, which is definitely a card I would probably put in here. I didn't really think of it, to be honest. But now that I've been reminded of Duskull, probably should pour a Psyduck in here. Shaman, you could, but Terrabox isn't really seeing a lot of play right now. Like, the Charizard version with Wellspring is, but not many Charizard players are actually playing that variant, so I would not worry about it, to be honest. But hopefully this goes a bit better. Badoo, Hoot Hoot. Is this Charizard or what? Because kind of confused here. I'm not really sure what's going on. Yeah, it's Charizard. Okay. So this is Dawnzard then. This shouldn't be too bad for us. As long as they... I was going to say, if they play the Wellspring, it's going to get ugly, but hopefully that doesn't happen. We can obviously Ariana's for 7. Obviously, if we can't play the card in the hand that we draw for turn, yeah. And there's Dawn. Interested in playing Dawn now, though, because that's not what you typically expect. But yeah, like, there's not a lot you can really do about this archetype, like, to change it, but it's still something to consider, you know? And they don't even have a retreat option. That's good for me. So, we'll go for Porygon, Ariana for 6. Okay, good. That's a good one. So we'll Ultra Ball away Petrel and Mimikyu. Grab ourselves another Porygon. Now, we can't attack with this Porygon right now, but if we get Ignition Energy, we can. And we don't, but that's fine. I'll Ultra Ball away the Rare Candy and the Proton then. We have prized a thingamabob, but it's not a big deal. I'll just grab a Z, just so we have it. And we'll pass. They've only got one Duskull down, but obviously if they can get the Wellspring off so early, that's going to be an issue for us. But we can deal with it. It's not a major deal, but, you know. It's one of those that, like, there's only so much you can tech for a deck, and obviously we need all the supporters we can. But still, this could get ugly, is all I'll say. This could get very ugly very fast, and I don't like that. So they have obviously access to Noctowl because they did Dawn for it. So what they're going to grab? They're going to need Rare Candy because they did grab a Dusk Noir. But then they'd also need a way to get this Wellspring going. And I don't think they'd play Crystal. They could. I mean, I'm playing Crystal in my version, but that's only because it makes it easier to attack with the Wellspring. And they're just going to grab Double Candy. Sure. Do what you like, my friend. So they're going to go Rare Candy Dusk Noir. It's interesting, though, that they actually benched the Badoo, which I don't agree with. And they're going for another Jewel Seeker. Sure. So what are they grabbing off of this one, then? Because we can Archer them. It's not a big deal. Yeah, this is... times like this is where I wished I had both. There's Dawn, so Dawn's coming into play again. This is where I would love to have access to Shaman and... what's his name? Psyduck. So do they have the Latias? No, they're grabbing a Petrel, interestingly enough. Not sure what that's in there for. There's a Dawn. So what they're grabbing off a Dawn, because they can grab Dusclops if they want, but they have the Noir in hand, so I don't think that's correct. For basics, you'd probably want Latias, you'd probably want Charmeleon, and then you'd probably want Zard, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure what my opponent's planning here, but it's not looking good for us, is all I'll say. But if they do... Okay, there's Charizard, Noctowl, and a Hoot. They are taking quite a long time with their actions, but I'm not too worried about that. There's not a lot to Dawnzard, though. It's not a complicated deck, and I'm not sure what's taking them so long. They can just take out all 3 Porygon if they actually play this smart. But that depends on if they want to play it smart. So there's Candy again for the Zard. Now, do they have the Water Energy in hand, or do they have a Crystal that I don't know about? Let's see what they get off their draws here. Or their Infernal Rain, I should say. Well, they've got 1 energy on the Wellspring, so that already smells trouble for me. There's a Fez and a Hoot Hoot. They're putting down a lot of 2-prize liabilities, which is good for us. I don't think they have it. Curse Blast, probably take out one of the Porygons. Okay. You gonna sob-lock me or something? It's the only reason I can think of, because you don't appear to have it in hand. So they'll probably promote the Wellspring after this. But if they sob-lock, that's just a huge risk, because I only need 12, and I've already got a decent amount in there. No, they're going with a Zard. Okay, that's not the line I thought he was going to go for. Interesting. Very interesting. So I wish we hadn't gotten rid of that rare candy now, but, well, you can only predict so much. So I'm just going to slap that there, and we're just going to arch at our arse and hope for the best. And that is completely shocking. So, you know what? We're going to go down in style. Let's use some hacking. Let's get rid of Proton. And now you have to discard a card, mate. Yeah. So powerful, that effect. Yeah, we just lose here, because they should have actually kept that air balloon, realistically, but yeah, we was not winning that game. Quite unfortunate, but, well, yeah, that's down to me not putting a Psyduck in here, which, yeah, you definitely need one in here, it seems, because, well, there's Dust Noir all over the ladder, but, well, I forgot to put a Psyduck in, but still. So, what did I think to the deck? I think this deck is really, like, just a fun deck. It's not something you typically take to, like, an event or something. You know, maybe a locals for a bit of a laugh, but ultimately I don't think this is a very good deck, like, for, like, cups and challenges and stuff. Definitely put a Psyduck in here, maybe even a Golduck, so you can have access to Ignition Energy with it. You never know, that 60 damage with the Hydro Pump attack could come in handy. I don't know, but, other than that, there's not really a lot you can change about this list. Like, the thing about backup attacker is, let me just go quickly demonstrate what I mean. So if I put in Team Rockets, there's not really anything. Oh yeah, you can't put the S because it has a Mardy. Forgot about that. So you can't really take advantage of the energy which is there. The only Pokemon that is, and I don't have a copy of it, it seems, is the Team Rocket's Persian. But I don't think Ignition... Does Ignition work on the... Yeah, Ignition would work on it. But like I said, the whole point of the archetype is you don't want to be adding too much that makes it complicated. Like the Persian's really good because you can copy... Well, you can use Cruel Slash, or you can copy opponent's Pokemon. Which would be pretty nice. So maybe a 2-2 line of this would just give the deck a bit more flexibility. But like I said, I really think you need to play a Shaman and a Psyduck. But obviously you play 14 Pokemon as it is. That's committing another 2 bench spaces, which, if you're dealing with multiple attacks per turn, and obviously Dust Noir if they play Klefki and stuff like that, can be very tricky. And personally, I think it's something that you can look into. Obviously Team Rocket's Persian is on the Wheel of Pain, so we will be covering that in the future anyway, because obviously, we will eventually get around to it. But yeah, ultimately, I think this deck is held back by, the amount of bench sniping with stuff like Wellspring. There's obviously Dust Noir that helps, keep this deck in check, and obviously, we only played 1 candy. I think you could go up to 2 or maybe even 3. But then you're cutting more space, which there isn't a lot of space because you don't want to be cutting supporters. Because obviously you want to be playing the maximum amount of supporters so then you can reconstitute. You can obviously Brilliant Blender them. Stuff like that. But otherwise, I don't think this archetype is like the best in the world. But like for a single prize archetype, it's actually not that bad. But I do think it's held back by the sheer amount of gatekeeping in the format right now. But anyway, I'm going to leave you to it for today. I really hope you enjoyed seeing Team Rocket's Porygon in action, and I'll see you next time.